Well, hello everyone. This is Dr. Song of New Covenant Academy. Today I'm joined by Mr. Sal Torres, who is our high school science teacher as well as dean of high school. We want to talk to you about college counseling at New Covenant Academy. So Mr. Torres and I have been counseling parents throughout the summer, and we have learned that there are some things that the parents are not prepared to talk about. And these are issues that parents and students themselves must discuss in advance. So we want to talk about those elements, some criterion about choosing college, what they should be thinking about. So based on our 10 or so meetings that we've had with parents so far, what do you think are some of the top priorities that they should be thinking about? What are some issues or elements or criterion they should consider before coming to talk to us?
So I think before coming to talk to us, we need to have parents talk to their children about their majors that they're interested in pursuing in college, whether they're thinking about staying in-state or going out of state. Also considering if private schools are an option or if they are really heavily considering public schools as the route that they're going to take, and really trying to get a list of colleges, because there's just so many colleges in the United States that
Almost 3,000.
so about 3,000 schools. They really need to come in and have at least 5 to 10 schools that we can really kind of start working with.
So let's talk about some of those things, criterion. Majors. I think it's safe to say that the vast majority of students going to college don't have a set major.
Yeah.
So they're going to go undeclared.
Yeah.
But what we're asking is that at least talk to your parents about and talk to your child about what they're interested in. Nobody is saying that a major must be determined now, because we know that even those students who declare their majors, eventually, vast majority of them change their major when they go to college. So it's okay to go undeclared, but at least you should talk to your child about it. We have had parents who come to the meeting and say, hey, what are you interested in? And the kid says, I don't know. And that kind of tells us the dynamic at home, that you really haven't talked about it. And perhaps this might sound like a negative or a criticism, but the parents aren't really aware of what the child excels in. And those are the things that we want you, parents and students, to talk about before coming to talk to us. What do you think about the size of the college? We have large colleges, we have like public and private institutions, mostly public, and then we have mid-sized schools and small-size or private colleges.
Yeah, so I mean, the size of the college is another thing that needs to be heavily considered, depending on what the career path of the student will be, if they're planning on doing graduate school, or if the bachelor's is the terminal degree they're going to pursue. The size of the college is going to be impactful if they're looking for college recommendations from their professors.
So generally, we at NCA recommend smaller or small to mid-sized schools. And small colleges are around anywhere from like 1,300 to maybe 3,000, 4,000. And I think from 4,000 to maybe 7, 8, maybe 10,000 is considered mid-sized school. And beyond 10,000 undergrad students is considered a large university or college. As Mr. Torres said, the thing is, if college education is just part of the process toward grad school, getting that recommendation letter from professors at a large public university or a large private university where classes are filled with hundreds of students, it's going to be very difficult. So if you're thinking of the next level beyond college, then you have to start setting yourself up. And there are plenty of schools around here, even in LA, nearby schools that parents never even heard of. Schools like Occidental College, my alma mater. My dad thought I was going to be a dentist when I told him that I'm going to Occidental. Then there are schools like Pomona, top schools. Pitzer, Claremont McKenna, Scripps, all-girls college, to Harvey Mudd, all engineering school for only like 700 to 800 undergrads. And they're going to be very wealthy when they finish their program because their jobs are all over. But schools like that are all over the country, right? There's the vast number of the 3,000 or so schools, colleges and universities in this country are all small and mid-sized schools. They're not large universities.
Not many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there are large private universities like USC as well.
Yeah.
But most large universities are public institutions, say like UCLA and Berkeley and many of the UC schools, the state universities in New York. I also think that the students have to think about in-state or out-of-state, right?
Yes.
Do you want to stay or do you want to go explore at a different state?
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
I think it's a conversation that needs to happen at home, so that once they come in, we can definitely work with where they want to go. And if they're going to stay in state, that makes it a lot easier for us to really just focus in on California, versus if they want to go to the East Coast, then we can really work on pinpointing some schools that are appropriate on the East Coast. But if that conversation's not had at home, then we have a problem.
It actually stalls our counseling because it's something that they haven't discussed.
Yeah.
And when they start to talk about that, how many times have we seen students say, I'm going out of state, and parents are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's like, that's news to me. Well, have that conversation at home. Generally speaking, staying in California is financially inexpensive compared to going out of state, because going out of state means, one, you don't get the Cal Grant, which is not a lot of money, maybe a few $1,000s a year, but over 4 years it could be $10,000. And what about the travel cost, right? And my recommendation for parents considering sending their child to out-of-state schools is try to look for a school where you have either family or relatives or friends that are within, say, an hour or two of driving distance, who could come to your child's, I don't want to say rescue, but to aid in times of crisis or when they get sick.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that I didn't send my daughter to Cornell is because Cornell is in Ithaca, New York, and is cold. It's miserably cold, we were told by our former students who went there. And my daughter does get sick a lot when it's cold. So I strongly recommended, hey, you got in, but I don't think that's the place for you to be for 4 years. And she checked things around and she was like, ooh, it is very cold. I'm not going there. California and West Coast, the options for schools are just the best. It's the best compared to any other region, whether it's the East Coast or Midwest or the South. Plenty of schools around here. So do have a conversation about things like this, okay? And I think there are so many other criteria that we send out surveys, right? Google Forms for the parents to kind of discuss these items at home and share that with us so that our conversation could be more focused on and selecting the right school. But the dreaded discussion has to be the finance factor, money. From, hey, I got all this, parents, so there are some parents who say, hey, don't worry about money, just go to college. Then there are parents who say, we really need that aid, or we really need that scholarship. We really need to minimize our contribution. We can't take another loan. These are difficult conversations to have, but it's necessary. I think perhaps the children or the students at this age, 17, 18, perhaps even 19 years old, they need to understand that education, higher education, is very expensive. Very expensive. The private school tuition and room and board bills are now $90,000 a year. $90,000. My math may not be so good, but multiply that by 4, that's a lot of money. Right? And it doesn't mean that private schools are so expensive that you should put that the entire private school out of your options, but because many of these private schools are well endowed in terms of their size of the endowment. I mean, Harvard endowment is almost $60 billion from what we understand. So they're able to generate a lot of money from the market and put it into scholarships and financial aid and grants. But money per family, each family, what the parents are willing to contribute has to come into play. So these are some of the things that we really want our parents and students to talk about and discuss. It's part of growing up, and it's very, very important part. The first step in college counseling. And with that information, we try to find 3 different types of schools for the parents and students, right? So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the 3 types of schools that we try to identify for students are going to be our reach schools, our fit schools, and then our safety schools. For our reach schools, we're looking at schools that our student is just about qualified or a little bit under what the average is. For our fit schools, those are going to be schools that we, based on the student profile, we feel that the student's going to fit in well. They're going to have a good experience in college, and they're going to be above the average student there. And then we have our safety schools, which are schools that our student with that specific profile is going to definitely get into the school
and maybe
get some scholarship and be above the average student when they attend there. We typically recommend that our students go to the fit schools. That's really what our recommendation is, as they will get a top tier education while at the same time be able to enjoy their experience.
But invariably, we have parents and students who say, well, I want to go to the best school that I get into.
Yes.
And this is where we need to show the normal distribution curve. The fit school is where your child is in the middle or the median of the normal curve, or maybe slightly to the right
a little bit.
It.
Yeah.
But if you start to try to apply to a school where the vast majority of the competitors, if you will, your freshman class are above you and better than you in terms of performance, and we're not talking about intelligence, we're just talking about performance indicators, the GPAs, the SAT scores, maybe the AP scores and IB scores. That means even if you get into a reach school, you will be on average in maybe 70th or 80th, if not 90th place out of 100 students.
Yep.
So you have 70, 80, 90 other students out of 100 that are higher performing students than you are, and you will be competing against them for the next 4 years. That's an uphill battle. That's a challenge. And we hear students say, well, I'm up for it. I'm going to turn it on when I go to college. And our always, I think my snarky response has always been, why didn't you turn it on here when you're attending our school? But it's difficult to imagine that someone could get into a really hard school and just turn it on. Yeah. I don't think it happens.
No, I don't think so.
We really recommend finding good fit schools. Go to a school where you're going to be one of the better performers, stand out, enjoy, have fun. I don't know if I could use the word hell in our conversation here, but people say that work is hell. College will be very hellish if you're competing against students that are so much better than you in terms of their performance and their ability. It's going to be miserable. I think school is a place where students can be happy if they do well. And that's true at our school too. So we really want you and your children to look for a school that is a good fit. Okay. Now, is there anything else that just kind of stands in your mind? Something that the parents should really, really consider or think about? So we talked about majors to
in-state and out-of-state.
In-state versus out-of-state to financial aid. Anything else? Size of the school?
Size of school. I think we go back to the fit schools and really focusing in on finding the right school versus finding the right name. We all know the big names when it comes to universities, but that doesn't mean they're fit. So we really need to focus in on what is the student profile and what school do they fit into. And at the end of the day, we're still looking at top universities. We just might not be looking at the top 10 or top 20, but
Which is top 30 out of 3,000 will be top 1%.
Yeah.
We're talking, generally speaking, even our lower performing students are making it to top 75.
75.
So they're top 2.5, top 3% of all schools in the country. That's pretty darn good if you ask me. And So if you were to name those 90 schools, I wonder how many parents and students could recognize and identify all those names. So that means even within that list of elite 90 schools or so that we could select for them, there are a lot of schools that you don't know about.
Yeah.
And there are quite a few schools that we don't even know about.
Oh, we don't hear about.
I think it's important to open our mind and our attitude, change our attitude where you're picking and choosing only certain names that you recognize, and understand that there are a lot more options that are available. Now, in order to help our school community, we have a specific college counseling website that we update every year, which is not available to the general public, but only to our school students and even parents. If they want access, I could provide that access to them. But generally, it's for the students, and it's just for the senior class.
Yeah.
And I have sent the link to our students. They haven't checked in yet, and that's the problem. We give so much information in detail, but the students don't take the initiative, or in this case, they don't even respond. So we really want our students to proactively look for colleges, consider all these criterion that we have shared, and also get into our college counseling class of 2025 website and start learning more about all the information. Like, we have a section that's called General Facts and FAQ, frequently asked questions, from number of colleges to California schools to private schools to Christian schools to what are college prep courses to what about the SATs, early action, early decision, early application, tips on how to ask for rec letters. My goodness, this is a pretty robust site. The second block talks about maybe to the interest of the parents, how to finance your education so we have like financial aid basics to cost, how to understand net price versus published cost, to types of financial aid, grants, scholarship search engines. Maybe we should take a little moment to talk about the published price versus the net cost or net price. And we could find that information readily available. So could you talk about that a little bit?
So published cost is going to be the cost that is essentially the sticker price per year at the school. It is going to be what the university is expecting to receive. However, the net price is going to be the price that's actually out of pocket from the family after scholarships, grants, and any other kind of aid that's provided to students is given. So the net price is actually the price that we are very interested in, because that's the price that's going to be the responsibility of the family.
Right. And it all depends on the family income as well. I think typically the web screen that we'll provide shows you that the categories are $0 to $30,000, then 30 to 50, maybe 50 to 75, and maybe 100,000 and 110,000 over. Generally speaking, if your family of four is making more than $110,000 as a gross income a year, very little financial aid is available. But if your family's on the below 50, below 60,000 side, I think the financial aid will be quite generous. So we have to balance those things and look at the cost in terms of net price. Unless you're one of the very, very wealthy families, hardly anyone going to schools are paying for full published price. It's going to be the net price that's going to be important. So when we and we don't find this information just out of a hat. It's readily available, isn't it?
So it's readily available on College Navigator. On that website, you are able to find all of the published costs and, more importantly, all of the net prices.
Right. And the search engine is a database that is provided by the United States government. Just to give you a little background, every bona fide education institution in the United States, from kindergarten all the way up to grad schools and doctoral programs, must provide their government requested, I know it sounds a little tricky, but government requested information and details to the National Center for Education Statistics, which is the United States government, the Department of Education. So on that site, every private, public, 2-year, 4-year, grad school, only colleges, 4-year schools, all the information about individual institutes are there. And you could find from school size to the number of faculty, to the majors offered, to sports offered, housing cost, tuition cost, goodness, everything that you ever want to know about. That each school publishes on their catalog, are available. So hopefully we'll provide that a website address on the screen, and you could use that to start searching for schools and look for the information that you need. But going back to what we're providing at the school, all the links that you're seeing on the screen, or the websites that we're talking about, how to access that is all available within College Counseling for Class of 2025. Students, please, I beg of you, we spent a lot of time producing this, so go there and check things out. I want to add one thing here about scholarships. Each year we learn that billions of dollars in scholarship are not claimed.
Yeah.
Now, I could be wrong, but billion sounds like a big number.
A lot.
It's a lot of dinero. Boku dinero. Lots of money. Cash. Whatever you want to call it. But it's free money. And some of these are very, very specific.
Yeah.
I've heard one at UCLA where somebody created a scholarship for like the Armenian descendants whose father is a firefireman or something like that.
Yeah.
So could be very specific, but they may provide something like $3,000 a year. $3,000 a year is a lot of money.
No, adds up.
So I really want our students to actively search for scholarships and see what you qualify for. There are some services, paid services, that say, we'll do that for you. They're going to use the same database that we're talking about. So we have provided links on our resource page, the third block on our College Counseling Class of 2025 page on NEO. So please go check these things out, okay? And I use this as a way to kind of remind our students, when was the last time you earned $3,000 by writing a letter or filling out an application?
Yeah.
Do it. Don't say things like, oh, I don't think I'm good enough, or I don't have time. Time is all you have. You have that on your side. Use it. It's not for playing games. It's not for watching Netflix. You got to spend your time trying to get some free money. So scholarship applications are all over the place. Look for something, and in my opinion, I think in the past we've learned that some of the prompts or the essays that students have to write for these scholarships are not too different from, say, college essays that they're writing. So, and on that note, I want to talk about this last piece before we come to a conclusion of this podcast, which is Common App's and UC App essays.
Yeah.
We know that essay prompts are always published in advance. So for UCs, I think there's 5 or 6 or 7, 8 that are there, and Common App also has 7 or 8 that they publish every year. And they may change from time to time, but they let everybody know in advance what the prompt for the essays will be. So you have no excuse. You can't say, well, I didn't know what I was supposed to write. Well, the prompts are there. So you need to start working on that. And with the early application process that's coming into play more pronouncedly, starting from last year and going forward, we know that certain colleges and universities are trying to protect their yield or the freshman class by giving early acceptance letters by what, December? It's middle of December.
Yeah.
So they want the students to apply by middle of November, so that they'll have a 1 month of review. So the timeline has been pulled up. So that means you have to have your essays pretty much all done now, so you can start. You could continue to draft. And we're willing to help. So in that college counseling class of 2025 course that we have created at NEO, which only our students have access to, we allow our students to, we ask our students to submit the drafts of their college application so that multiple teachers could access it, read, and make comments. We don't want to do line by line editing because that's not our responsibility.
No.
But we can't. I've seen times. I don't know if you had a chance to read some of the essays.
No.
I'm sure you have. Sometimes students miss the point.
Yeah.
They're not answering the prompt. In situations like that, we would quickly respond to the student who submitted the draft and say, "Hey, you're missing the point."
Yeah.
Yeah. Or we like this part, but that part seems to be distracting. It's like you're meandering into something else. We need you to bring that essay back to the point. What about this example? Well, have you forgotten this thing about your life or your family? Things that we know.
Yeah.
We would make suggestions so that students could make improvements. It really helps to have third, fourth, fifth eye looking at student essays and make comments. Grammar-wise, I think using something like Grammarly, running it by
helpful.
grammar check programs could fix many of the syntax issues.
Yeah.
But the content, the main point, say the flow and the examples, whether it's missing the point or not, those really require third-person perspective.
Yeah.
I think most students, when they start to write about something, and we see this in regular school year as well, that they get so into what they're writing, they get lost in their own writing.
Yeah.
So to them, everything makes perfect sense. But to someone who's reading it, we're like scratching our head and
What's
going,
going on?
how did you go from point A to point C without making point B? But well, the kid's thinking, well, I know how it happened because it's all in my head. Well, it's not on the paper. So we really want our students to use teachers as a reference or help in getting their essays done. It's very important.
Yeah.
I think, if I remember correctly, the typical time admissions officer reviews a student's application at UC is like 3 to 10 minutes. I don't know if I should be able to say that. Should say that 3 to 10 minutes. You spend months and months preparing your application, but they're just reading it. Oh, there's an error. You know, you have to make sure that your essays are flawless.
Yeah.
You don't get multiple chances. You don't get to explain what, no one gets to ask you a question. Hey, what did you mean by line 14? Well, no, you don't get that chance.
Yeah.
It has to make sense. So we cannot overemphasize the need to have your essays worked on, just multiple revisions to the point of perfection. And that's something that you need to do. And don't forget, private schools, when they do Common App and you submit, some of these schools might come back to you and ask for supplemental essays. I don't know if I use my son's example. I think certain people I know, I won't name anybody, but certain people I know have waited until the last minute to submit the college essay on Common App. And then they're like, wait a minute, 7 out of the 10 schools that I applied on Common App sent me 3. Each school sent me 3 additional essay questions. How could they do this to us? I'm telling you, that's what they do. So you need to prepare. And good thing about our school is that our graduates have shared those, not all, but some graduates have shared those prompts with us, so we have them available here. At New Covenant Academy, as a college prep school, an IB World School, our goal is to prepare you well, not only to get into college, but for you to thrive once you get there. But notice a step. You need to prepare well, you need to get in, and then you're going to thrive. So right now, we're in the process of getting you into the school. I feel that in the future, we may need to do another podcast about how to prepare for, say, interviews that schools request. Because some of our students are deathly afraid of interviews. And we have trained others in the past, and we could do that for you as well. So do you have any last minute comments you want to make before we come to a closure?
No, just get those essays started now.
Now is the time, not next week, not after I play games, or not when school starts, okay? So this is Dr. Song and Mr. Torres of New Covenant Academy, and we hope this college counseling podcast has been very helpful to you, parents, as well as to you, students. This is an interactive process. This is a part where we as professionals come to help you and guide you. But there's a part that you must do as well. So make sure, parents, talk to your children. Students, talk to your parents about college preferences and some of the criterion that we gave you. And as you do so, and when you start to come to some conclusion, come and talk to us. We'll be available. We've already done 10 or so college counseling services so far, and we have a few more to go. But if you still have questions, we're always available to help you. Okay? Thank you very much for joining us, and all the best to you.